Alright, so I'm becoming mildly obsessed with vibes, basically. But anything to do with vibrations and spirals and all kinds of, I don't know, it's just anything that can be measured in hertz. I suddenly have this vast interest in, and I just see all these connections everywhere, and it starts to make me feel a little bit delusional. So, so I'm recording this to look at later and see how delusional I think I am. I am on ketamine right now, okay? So keep that in mind. But I do still have some of these feelings, even when I'm not. Whenever I'm like this, I'll see a lot of connections between ideas and thoughts and stuff. And then whenever I'm not on ketamine, I still have the same beliefs. I just don't necessarily have the same, I don't know, spiral connections. But whenever, it's like how ADHD people always relate information to another thing. It's what I mean when I say spirals. It's like I'll be thinking on one topic, I'll be like, huh, that's exactly what I was thinking over here too. And it's just like how my brain works. There's both pieces of information that were right there, and I'm like, oh look, these are nearby and fun. And that's where it gets into all the vibrations, because everything is vibing off of each other. These things in my brain that are healing or whatever, they'll be like, oh look, see, that one actually connects over here too. And then they're kind of vibing, and it just kind of all reinforces this obsession with vibrations, because it all boils down to that. I like singing, vibrations. I like dancing, very much about vibrations. Rhythm. I have obsession with words that I tend to use a lot in language, like resonate. You know, like I just, anything, and I've always, even looking at my music, I think it's crazy how many songs you can clearly apply to masking. Even ones that aren't about it at all. I'm not delusional, not that delusional, but like Disease by Matchbox 20. I got a disease deep inside of me, and the song is about somebody who has some kind of mental disorder, I don't know, not in the right mindset to be politically correct, okay? Somebody with BPD, basically, is what he's talking about. Or bipolar, but like, based off of him being the singer and what I know of him, I'm gonna go with BPD. I actually know nothing about him, but that's what I would go with. But the song is about him and somebody else who's basically being toxic to him, but he's acknowledging that he is also the problem, and I think a lot of people miss all the nuance of that song. It's a beautiful song from a relationship perspective. But if you were to flip the script and say, no, both of those entities are the same person, it's more of an internal struggle, it kind of changes the entire thing. And there's a lot of songs where, like, that one actually does have applications to my relationship, but I do feel my radio came on and I lost my train of thought. Anyways, that was a whole little spiral. But the reason that I wanted to record this was because I keep learning more about that part of my brain that's in there, that protector. And I've hated him for so long, because you ruined my life, is the way I saw it. My anxiety, my inability to be funny or do the things that I know I could do, and in moments when I needed to do them. You know, like, I could be witty, but not witty in front of a girl. You know, I could have really good hand-eye coordination, but not whenever other people are watching me. You know, it's just, it sucked. It really sucked to know that you're really good at stuff, but only when no one's looking, or no one cares, or something like that. Like, I can only sing in the shower. Yeah, that's like my whole life. And the more that I acknowledge that, the more that that protector can heal. And I think I had some kind of breakthrough or something, but I realized that if parts of my brain get divvied up into jobs, there's some cool ones and some shitty ones. And I'm kind of like looking at them, just for perspective. But look at them like they're all their own little entities. And so the protector, he's his own guy. He's a person. It's a job for him. And he has the shittiest job. He doesn't want to do all these things, and we don't want him to either. And so why are we fighting all the time? And so, well, we gave him good reason to have to do his job, didn't we? We kept telling him what the danger was. That's not his fault, that's ours. The other parts of my brain that decide what's painful and how you're going to deal with it and the trauma associated with it and all of those little details, all of that is what determines how the protector reacts. And if we had just sent different messages, the protector would have had a different job. And now we've been hating the guy and ostracizing. If you think about it like a community, we've been ostracizing the guy who's been ruining our life. But he's like, what do you want me to do? I have a job, and you told me to do this. And so as much as I've been trying to thank my protector, and that made sense, it did. I was so shocked that it made sense, but it did as soon as I said it. I felt so much more whenever I realized that. It's not just about thanking it. I don't need to be sorry. Because that protector, he was just doing his job. The other parts of my brain, the ones that are more conscious, that are more there, they're the ones that told him this was dangerous and I need you to protect me. They sent the wrong signals. It's making me feel a little delusional because I'm talking about my brain this big, but it makes so much sense. And then whenever I feel better, I typically feel permanently better. And that's where I'm starting to believe weird stuff like manifesting. I sound like a crazy person. Or to me, I don't know if... Sometimes I think I'm the one that is the only one who really doesn't even think these things are possible. And whenever I tell other people, they're like, oh yeah, there's lots of people who believe in manifesting. I'm like, really? I'm so sorry. That protector was just doing his job well. I don't think he ever made a mistake. We made the mistake and then blamed him for it. And it's not our fault that we didn't know the right signals to send. We're a fucking child. But we still left the protector all alone. We hated it. We hated the part of ourselves that was doing its job the best. I'm sorry. Because if I think about it, I feel like that part of me should get the most love. That part of me should... That part of me should get the most love. Because it has the shittiest job. It has to constantly scan for danger. It can't ever relax. I keep having all these thoughts about being free and giving up control and all these concepts. And that part of me really can't be free. It has to constantly scan for danger. Like, it's literally its job in my mind. And I don't mean in like a threat analysis because of the CIA's out to get me. That's not what I'm talking about. I just mean like whenever I'm looking where I'm walking, making sure that every crack is accounted for. Whenever I do become more obsessive on things, it's it doing its job better because I'm feeling more anxiety. But it's the only one that is doing its job so well and carrying all that weight, and then getting not appreciated. And I feel like when people talk about like a denial of self and stuff, like somehow, even though this is like some small part of me, not small, but like it's more autonomic, or I don't know what the right word is. It's not as conscious. It does its job. It does its job well. I'm personifying it. But what it is a part of me that never really does the wrong thing. It always gets it right. What it does get wrong, or what it can get wrong, is the instructions it receives. And that's what I can control. And so I need to share that load a little bit. It can't be free, which means I need to have enough control to make sure that I'm sending the right signals and looking at things the right way. So that way it doesn't have to always do such a hard job. Maybe it can even sometimes be a fun job. And if there is some way to take those same parts of me that are the protector, that keep me alive, that assess anxiety and threats and everything, and repurpose it in a way where it can feel real joy, I want that for that part of me. And I am a little bit concerned about how delusional I sound. These are concepts, okay? It's not like these people are walking around in my mind all day. But I started out as it being me, and then it was me and ADHD, and then it was me and ADHD and the autistic. And then we kind of viewed that as we all just vibe. If you want to get into the theology, I believe that my autistic mind realized that somehow that there was a way that I could kind of deal with life better than was working. I was getting made fun of. I didn't like it. I was very sensitive. I don't even really know, except what my parents tell me, but I know that there were little shifts and changes in my personality, and it was all very typical ADHD kind of stuff, and it probably was. But to me, what I think I did, at least conceptually, is that I kind of divided myself a little bit. I said, okay, you're over here, you're the autonomic side that's going a little crazy, okay? You feel everything way too strongly. And so you can't deal with life. We need a solution. And so we're going to break off this other little piece of us. This is the part that can kind of do all the thinking, essentially. But because we're going to break it apart, this one has to chase dopamine. It needs to be self-sufficient. It has to entertain. And so that the purpose is that this part of me that was so scared, it needed a way to navigate the world. And that was by breaking off a little piece. Basically, I view it like creating a spacesuit around my mind. But that's what ADHD is to me. ADHD is a little spacesuit, a mask that's not like something I built. It is me. Like, there's literally two parts, and they are different. One was the original. It gave up a piece to make the other. And at like some developmental point, they are like somewhat separate entities, and they vibe with good, bad. I want balance, to be in the middle. They both have, when they come together, that makes me a more whole, grounded person. And they do really love each other in a weird way. Like, it's me, so it's just self-love, but you know what I mean? No, you don't. But the autistic needed somebody to go learn about the world. And so what better than a dopamine chasing thing? You know, it's a piece of my consciousness that's so entertained by happiness and activity and joy and all those things that it just wants to constantly go and do all those things. I think I created a piece of me that was an world explorer, somebody who could mimic and do all these things because it had to almost. I built a robot, basically, of myself in my mind. Yes, I know, I hear myself. But it worked, kind of. You know, I was able to be funny around people and actually get it right and not offend. And the only real problem that I had was my anxiety, which was other unresolved trauma that apparently I just didn't have a good solution for. I don't know. Haven't gotten that far. But at some point, I created this spacesuit and it worked. And it's a combination of me, truths, and lies. Some of the lies were on purpose. Like, I knew them. And that's what I'm kind of unraveling now, is trying to free that part of the ADHD part of me to be what it really should be. And the more that I do that, I have the autistic side, who's all my pattern recognition and anxiety and all of these things. And they negotiate for peace and balance. And I feel like I'm doing really well. Aside from the fact that I struggle focusing at work, because I should be working right now, I feel like this is more important. But I feel like I'm becoming a better person and more whole. And it's as the pieces of me start to vibe together, I start to feel more whole. It's not like I believe I have superpowers or anything, okay? That said, I do think that I have some kind of amazing singing voice that's hidden inside. I don't know. I'm afraid to believe to believe it too much, because I think that does sound delusional. But I also want it to be true. And I do feel like my progress in singing has gone exponential since this ketamine thing. And ketamine is psychoactive. I should be having weird things like this happening. I'm kind of tripping. And if you think about it, microdosing, I'm tripping every day. I think that's why it works. I think most people just aren't so autistic and break it down the way I am. But I think that's kind of what's happening conceptually. I'm just narrating it to myself because I love to fucking talk. And I think doing that is making it happen at rapid speeds. And I can't tell if I'm brilliant or delusional. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.